flow like water, flow like water, flow like water.
My name is Brit Liggett, and I'm here with the DYCD at Home series this spring with the DYCD Film Festival Filmmaking at Home series. And we're here with Marika Hacking, who is an editor and a partner in the production company Unarmed Media. And she has worked on documentaries and narrative pieces and music videos, and she's all around a great talent. Marika, what do you like about editing?
What I love about editing is taking all the talents from all the collaborators of filmmaking, the director, the cinematographer, the gaffers, and taking their talents and putting it on a sequence and telling a story and putting my stamp onto that story. All editors have the goal of being invisible. It's our main point to tell a fluid story for the viewer to fall into that world and become the character, to observe the story as if they're in that world and not notice the editing. You want to just have the whole thing flow. You don't want to notice the cut. A basic cut in film would be taking one shot and cutting it in places to create multiple shots to lay within a sequence. And a sequence basically is multiple shots woven together to create a fluid story. Depending on how you want to tell that story, you'll just cut in different spots of that shot and put them together. I feel like it's important to cut on motion. For example, if you have someone that you want to be entering a room and you have a shot of someone going towards the door, maybe you would have the person walking towards the door but cutting in that motion and then taking the shot inside the room of the door opening and them walking through it would help to create that fluid motion. If you were to wait for them to open the door and stop and then cut inside the room and have them coming through, it would be awkward. Continuity is also really important. If you have someone walking, it's important to see their legs moving. But then when you make that cut in between that motion for the next shot to continue the same movement that that actor has. So if you're moving with your right leg and you cut on the right leg moving, you want the next shot to also show the same right leg moving, so the scene's continuous. It just helps to keep that rhythm and that flow to not be stopped in between the action. I love long shots. The building that you're going to eventually push into and see the character living inside that building. Depending on what scenario you're in, it's nice to just live in it. Establishing shots are really good to just inform the viewer about where we're going to be living for the next so-and-so minutes or hours.
A really slick and athletic guy.
As an editor, for me, sound effects and music are so fun. The creative storytelling through sound is endless. The music can be so subliminal in the aspect of creating tension. If you're in a horror film and the killer is right behind you, the music can allow the viewer to feel what the victim is feeling. It can add that intensity of striking strings in a violin or in an orchestra. Going back to sound effects, you can create soothing feelings with like blowing breeze sounds or chirping birds. Creating that reality of the world, making it more natural feeling, adding the small bits that you don't really think about, like crickets chirping or traffic outside, will help to make a well-rounded story. Sometimes editing too much can be overwhelming. For example, in documentary, to live in the moment with your character or living in the space that you want the viewer to be in is a good way to have the viewer fall into that world. Not cutting as much can be just as impactful as cutting a lot and making it intense. It allows the viewer to collect all the information they need to know that person or that place. Being a cinematographer and keeping in mind that every shot that you take, give it heads and tails. When I say heads and tails, I mean when you start rolling your camera, give it 5 seconds. So if you count to 5 and then allow your shot to do whatever it is you wanted it to do, and then before you cut, give it another 5 seconds, that would help the editor so much. I like to create a first draft, and then I force myself to literally step away from the computer, give it space, give it time, allow my brain to readjust, because it's so easy to get so close to the story within that moment of editing that it's important to then step away, give it space, come back and see it with a whole new fresh perspective.
Flow like water, flow like water, flow like water. I've been away.